Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to another episode of Vertical Stars Podcast 4th season. How my loyal listeners, thank you for continued support. Enjoy this amazing interview because Neva Howell boards the mothership to discuss playing Ma Kent and Superman. Now come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Miss Howell. Thank you for coming to Vertical Stars Podcast.
Hello, how are you, Jeff?
So I always start with a question of inspiration. So what inspired your love for acting and who your earliest influences?
Well, I think later on I realized that what I loved about acting was finding those little moments where it took your breath away, or it made you think, or it created an emotion in you that you didn't even know you needed to feel.
Mm.
And how that showed up early in my life was noticing the people around me. I would notice things that would do that to me. But when I got into acting, I realized that was the same thing that intrigued me about acting was how do you capture those moments that just hit, and create an impact inside you. So I think that's really what drew me to it. And one of my earliest influences was a teacher, a drama teacher. She encouraged me to audition for the National Shakespeare Conservatory. I did and got in and went to a summer intensive in New York. And then after that, I went to LA for the first time. I learned, that it still was what I wanted. So when I went back, I was better prepared.
Because now you're Martha Kent in the very highly anticipated Superman movie. So you can tell listeners just a little bit about how you got involved with the film.
Well, my agent submitted me is always the first step, and then I was asked to audition. I didn't know it was Superman because it was a dummy script, and all the names had been changed, and it said Kansas, but I didn't even remember that the Kents were from Kansas, and I didn't know they were making a new Superman, so I just thought it was a nice role for a farmer's wife, and it wasn't until a bit later in the process that I finally realized it was Superman, or was told it was Superman.
What did it feel like when you were finally told that you are Martha Kent?
It felt like it was happening to someone else. I remember, how they do those scenes in the movie where the camera rushes and they're either in a panic attack or they've just had an epiphany or something large is happening to them. That's how it felt for a moment, like time slowed down and the camera was coming right at me. And I even fell a little into James. He was standing right next to me. So I just kind of slumped and he caught me, gentleman that he is.
That is awesome. I mean, Martha Kent is one of the iconic characters in comics. She's the mother to Superman, who is the biggest character in the history of comics. How familiar were you with Martha Kent as a character?
Well, before this, I had only ever seen the Christopher Reeve Superman, and I loved it. I was in love with Margot Kidder and everything she did as Lois Lane. I can't wait to see what Rachel's going to do with that role. I didn't get to see a lot of her filming, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. But I was familiar with that and with Phyllis Paxter. But when I got the role, I decided to go and watch a little snippets. I didn't want to bathe myself in the other moths, but I wanted a little taste of what they had all done. So I watched all of those. But when I was watching them, I was really watching for what was different in James's script.
If you were to highlight a primary difference in how they approached you as Ma Kent or the Ma Kent character in James Gunn's film, what would be the part that you would think was highlighted the most?
Well, what I loved about, and I have to be really careful not to say too much, but what I loved about the way she's written in James Gunn's version is the humor. I loved that she had a humorous side. I loved that she was real, down to earth, a real farmer's wife,
Hmm.
a little bit gritty even. I mean, I really enjoyed the way she was written. But he also sent a tape, an audio tape of a accent and rhythm and cadence of a woman from Kansas who had the kind of vibe that he was looking for. So I took that in too, and that was an important part of what I incorporated.
understanding an accent or a cadence of a voice help you find the character?
Oh, yes, yes, because I think the way that we phrase our words, the tones that we use when we're feeling different emotions, that's very specific. And a lot of times it's culturally specific. It's specific to an area. I know it is in Alabama, where I'm from. We have
Hmm.
very specific cadence and ways of speaking. So, yes, it helped a lot.
Now, as well as you were forming Martha's character in your head, I know you said you looked at some of the older movies. Did you look at the older comic books as well? And were any one specific comic or wherever you thought to yourself, that's it?
No, I did read, a friend of mine sent me one of his precious comics, one of those very collectible ones.
Hmm.
I didn't know he was doing it. And after I found out, I said, "Why did you do that? What if it gets lost?" But I got it back to him safely. But I read that one and kind of got a sense, maybe not so much of just Ma, but of how all the superheroes kind of intertwine
Hmm.
and relate to each other. So in a way that did help Ma because there a lot of them are in this.
Now, when you're thinking about again the character of Martha Kent, how much was on the page, and how much did you kind of develop your own headcanon on how she became who she is?
Well, there was a lot on the page. He wrote a very, very clear, good script. And what I took from um, all the things that I knew were that number one, she loved her son very much, more than anything, and would do anything for him. And number two, that she was unconditionally loving, that
Mhm.
he was her son no matter what.
Hmm.
So I took that kind of toughness that she would be there for him in whatever way he needed her, but also that unconditional love. And that kind of came from my grandmother and my mother because among them, between them, that's about who they were.
That's awesome because I could think about Superman is that in a very real way, Superman is portrayed as a character who's formed by his parents that you get to know on the farm. That's what made him the Superman we all care about. That made him the compassionate individual which is the reason why he's so wonderful, right? And he's why he represents hope. How much do we get to see Clark, his early days, and how much did you have to consider what kind of woman could raise someone to become Superman?
Well, I don't know that I can say much about the first part without giving anything away. I
Hmm.
know in the trailer you did see that one flashback, so you know they're in there. But as far as how much, I don't think it's my place to say that yet.
Because when you're thinking about Superman, as important as Superman is thinking about what kind of mother would be able to raise a son to become basically this superhuman symbol of goodness. I mean, that's just says as much about the mother as it does about Superman. So can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
It's kind of a large thing to say, but I really think she is that way. She is a good, hearted woman who has very strong morals
Hmm.
and very clear morals. So for her, I think passing that on to him was a strength that he could use his whole life to walk through those times when it's really hard to know what to do. He had that moral backbone from me and from his pa, I think too, in a different way. But I think Ma gave him that strength to know what's right, to
Hmm.
do what's right.
Pa Kent is played by Pruitt Taylor Vince.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like working with him and how do you guys build that chemistry? And did you have discussions about how you guys would interact as the parents of Superman?
I loved him from the moment I met him and from the moment he did his first paw scene. I was just, I- it was during the chemistry test, so I still didn't know if I was cast. But for a few moments, I forgot about whether I was cast or not. And I just thought, this has got to be Pa Kent. It has to be, or I'm going to be heartbroken. He was that good. He is fantastic in this role. I mean, he's a fantastic actor anyway, but I had never seen him play anything like this. So, and our chemistry was immediate. I don't know if he would say that. I have a feeling he would, because we just clicked.
Mm.
We went out and ate together and talked about everything on earth, and it was just easy. It was extremely easy to bond with him. Yeah.
Now, obviously, the next question is what was late working with, and you're going to help me with the last name, David.
Corenswet.
What
Let's
was it
call him
like
David.
working with David? And obviously, if you felt pressure being Martha Kent, obviously he was feeling a lot of pressure being Superman. And how was it kind of working together and working through that together that helped create these characters on screen?
Well, again, trying not to give anything away, I will say that for me, and I can only speak for me, David would have to say what his internal dialogue was. But for me, Ma's relationship to him at this time was different than it would have been even 5 years earlier,
Mm,
because he's left home. He's on his own. He's working at the Daily Planet. We know all of this from the trailer already. I'm not giving anything away, I hope. So he's in a certain place in a young man's life.
mm,
And so my relationship to him in this film at this point is different than it would have been uh, at any other point in his life.
mm,
And I think once I made that decision, that okay, this is what determines that where he is in his life, because Ma hasn't changed, but
mm,
David has gone through a lot of change. So, or Clark has gone through a lot of change. So I based my relationship with him on that.
mm.
And then it became uh, easy to do. And he's a delight. He's a beautiful human being. And the first time I saw him in the suit, I said the exact same thing that Nicholas Hoult and Rachel Brosnahan said. I said, "You are Superman." I just was stunned. It's
Mm.
like this could not be more perfect.
In the previous iteration of Superman, the Zack Snyder version, without going diving too deep into it, there's a sense that there's a line where the mother says, "Be a hero or don't, totally up to you. I don't care either way." When you think about your Martha Kent, does she want Superman? Is she happy that he became a superhero? Or do you think she's very always so nervous that he chose to go down that path of being a hero?
For me, it's also based on what happens in the film, which I can't tell you.
Fair enough.
But because of things that happen in the film, uh, I think she's in a new relationship with being his mother. And there are some feelings there that were not there before because of the events that have unfolded. So I she doesn't care if he's a Superman, I mean a hero or not, but I think she doesn't want to lose him. And
Mm,
she not doesn't seem as though she ever could, but there's always those moments where it looks like, oh no, what's happening? So
mm,
I think she loves him enough to let him go and knows that he has to go. He has to
mm,
do what he's doing. But that doesn't stop a mother's worry. If a
mm,
mother has a son that goes off to war and they believe in that and they want to support their son, that doesn't mean that they don't worry about them every moment they're gone. And I
mm.
think Ma definitely wants to know that he's safe, you know, that she's proud of him for doing what he's doing, but she wants to know he's safe.
Mm. I think that's fantastic because, in a real way, you as Ma Kent is the character that humanizes Superman a bit for everybody. Because obviously, none of us are going to move a planet, none of us are going to start flying, but we all can understand having someone, a mother, a father, someone else who worries about us, who makes us seem vulnerable because they worry about us. And I think that's such a fantastic role that you have by doing that.
Well, I feel very blessed to be doing this role. And I also feel blessed to be doing it in this particular Superman of anything that's ever been out. I'm grateful that it's this one that I'm
Hmm.
in.
And Obviously, the director is James Gunn, as we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. So can you go a little bit to what he's like as a director?
I adore James Gunn. I enjoyed it so much, immensely. He's kind of like working with and I've said this before in other videos, but a brilliant mad scientist child. And he just has too much fun. You're having too much fun. And the other thing that I admire about him greatly is everybody talks online about how much pressure he's under. I mean, this is the first, DCU big film since he took over,
Yeah.
and he you would never know it. And because he's calm and supremely confident and has such a clear vision, it gives all of us on set permission to just relax into the what we're doing and enjoy everything
Mm.
instead of being so, worried about how it's got to be good. It's got to be good. It will be good because he had that vision and it
Mm.
was so clear.
Now, I'm sure you can't answer the question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. When you're working with him, did he give you any hints about potential progression into future films?
No, no, I can't say anything about that, but I will say this. Anything James Gunn wants me to do, aside from leaping tall buildings in a single bound as super mom, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'd probably try that. So if James Gunn wants me on another one, I'm there.
Are you able to say whether or not there was any conversation about the possibility?
Conversation.
Conversation. So, I mean, obviously, later this week, as the recording of this show, Superman is going to be released, which is once again, by almost any metric, the most anticipated movie of 2025. I mean, there's others that people can argue about, but it's going to be Superman. That's the most anticipated movie of the year.
I wish you could
Um,
see what they're doing out here at the
yeah,
hotel. Oh my gosh, it's incredible.
I
Wait till
bet it
you
is.
see it.
How are you handling the hype that's around this film?
Not well. I'm a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
But I just it's only today, and I'm being very honest. It's only right now, today, as it's right around the corner. I mean, it's like an hour from now, or I don't know what time it is right now, but it's only now that I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to enjoy this.
Hmm.
So it's taken me a while to get to this point.
Are you looking forward to the demands? You're going to obviously have autographs, or people are going to be asking probably for you to be in the convention circuit. Are you prepared for all this?
That is something I would love because when I was first starting, I did tons and tons of community theater, and I always loved having that immediacy with
Mm.
people and being able to see their faces. And I would love that part. I hope that happens. I don't know how Comic-Con works or anything, but yes, I would really enjoy that.
Now that you're Martha Kent, and you're part of this huge movie, obviously the doors are going to open wider for you and what you want to do. Um,
Please.
is there a specific role out there that you're interested in doing now?
There are directors that I definitely want to work with. As I get older, it's more about quality instead of quantity. There are a few people like Ron Howard, Wes Anderson, and I want to work with Tim Blake Nelson again. I love him, and
Mm.
Simon Rex. They're both going to be in that film, The Leader. It's about the Heaven's Gate cult. And there's a
Mm.
woman in there my age, so I would love to work that one. But other than that, it's just the people that I want to work with more than the roles.
Mm. Well, if they're listening, hopefully they pick up the phone and call you immediately, and you can get the role in the lead. I think that'd be absolutely awesome. Hal,
Yeah,
it was an absolute pleasure talking with you, and enjoy the premiere, which I think you said is today. So
in about an hour and a half, I
have
think.
a hell of a night.
Woo-hoo! Thank you,
Thank you
Jeff. I
so much.
appreciate your patience with me.
Like I said, it's totally my pleasure. Have a fantastic time.
Thank you.